Folks, let's start. So, life is always good news, bad news. The good news is we're finally starting, but we're already a week late since the professor was confused about when the quarter begins, but should earn some points for being enthusiastic. Enthusiasm seems to be a big part of UCLA. I am not an enthusiastic man. I'm an angry man. I'm going to make all of you angry. That's my job. So this is my name. This is going to be a great course. This is going to be environmental economics. We managed to not Xerox any of the syllabi, so we are green, but we're also incompetent. You were told to look at the syllabus, so that was your first test. So let's play it straight, and do I need to make the font a little bit bigger for your young eyes? This is a little better. Folks, I'm going to stick to the key information, but ooh, that hurt. I have a couple of broken toes, and we'll be moving kind of funny for several weeks. So this is a course both at the Institute of the Environment and the Economics Department. This is how to get in touch with me. I love to receive emails from students who receive about 100 a day. One of you just emailed me that he will be 5 minutes late, and I'm glad to know that. When you have a mind as smart as mine, all of this information comes together. In case I stop making sense, and it's not my job to make sense, it's your job. There's more. It's my job to pose questions. It's your job to come up with answers. I've hired one of UCLA's greats. Does anyone know Charles Card? And so Charles is a very good young man. He will be here on Wednesday, so I can now speak about him and just embarrass him. He was my student this summer when I taught this course this summer at UCLA, and he did a terrific job. And his punishment for that is he is now our class reader. And the reason I raise this, he's a senior. He will grade none of your exams and none of your homeworks. Charles's job in the course is to play good cop to my bad cop. And it is Charles's job in smaller sessions, and if you catch him in office hour, to meet with him and to learn. Don't make him do your homework for you, but if there's places where you're stuck, if there's places where you need intuition, if there's places where you have dumb questions that you're afraid to ask the crazy professor, you'll ask Charles. And Charles will be very useful there, and I think he's going to do a terrific job. He's very good on his feet. He's a charming guy and very talented, and I'm very lucky to have him on board, and this course will be stronger. Folks, if you guys are this is not Starbucks. Either take a seat or go. And so I did not pick this submarine of a room. So this is about me. I'm very impressed with myself. Let's talk about the course objectives, which are more important. And this is the contract to hold me to. At the end of the course, I don't need you to like me. If you don't like me, that's good. I have to meet with you less. But the point of this course is to make you smarter. For UCLA to remain a great school, we need to train a new generation of problem solvers. Got basketball players, football players, need problem solvers. Folks who are fast on their feet, faster than me. I'm sort of a beta version. I'm like a BlackBerry. You're supposed to be an iPhone or a whatever phone. And the point of this course is to make you a better problem solver through the lens of environmental and urban economics. This course, I don't know who wrote this, this course seeks to introduce students to the major ideas in environmental economics. Emphasis is placed on designing incentives. Folks, these are going to be the two key words for the whole course. Drop out. If incentives don't interest you, I can always find a dozen other students. It can be as mean as I want. They just keep coming. Ugh. To protect the environment. The course will highlight the role of crunching data. We're going to make you better with data, so you could be consultants or whatever you want to do with your lives using Microsoft Excel, and we'll get you a little bit of practice to be better with Excel. The course is open to all students who have done something. The prereqs, if you've taken some economics in the past, that will certainly help you in this class. But students from the Institute of the Environment who have never taken micro before have done terrifically in this course if they have worked. Life is about effort. I am no prodigy. Life is about investing. So let's see what else we have here. Folks, I've done you the ultimate favor because many students say that at times while I'm very exciting, there's other times when I stop making sense and just become completely incoherent. And that's a shame because I understand every word I say, but if some of you can't keep up with me, so be it. So what I did was I wrote down every thought in my head in a $2 textbook. And folks, why was that a favor to you? And let me teach you the concept of opportunity cost. If I didn't force you to buy my book, what book would you have bought had you taken this stupid course? And we're being taped, so watch what you say. What would have been your textbook? What? Somebody just grunted? What? There's dozens of $120 books that are full of crap out there on environmental economics, written by moron friends of mine that make no sense. So you got a choice. Do you want a book that is smart and $2, or a book that is dumb and $120? How many for the $2 book? How many for the $120 book? And folks, my office is filled with these. Professors get, so one hustle in academia is you get all these textbooks at the hope that you will adopt these as your book. What do professors do with the books? We sell them to the book buyer. And so you get a book that retails for $120, you sell it to the book buyer for $20. There's all these 20s going back and forth. It's a very good business. Stop the recording. Now, my book is not a paper book. It's on Kindle, and I realize that not everybody has a Kindle. I give you this software so that you can put it on your PC. And folks, to be serious for a second, you are the second class ever to have my book. And I think it'll make the course easier for you, and I think you will learn more from the book. Because there have been times in my PowerPoint slides when I think there's not enough explanation. So has anyone read a page of the book? Can anyone say that they like it? Someone lie to the professor. Can I hear a yay? Yeah. All right. And life is about, you always have to choose something. So you don't even know how bad the books I didn't assign are and were. And so, but maybe we should read a chapter from one of those just to punish you. So if the grades on the midterm are bad, we will read a chapter or two from some of my competitors, and it will be funny. For those of you who like to watch Lady Gaga videos, Professor Kahn has posted a series of videos. So everyone in Asia is watching these videos. They're funny. Because I can say things I can't say at UCLA. So you all care about your grades. Grades, grades, grades. So here we go. Because I anticipated that there's going to be this nightmare of how we take the midterm. The midterm has been down-weighted to 15% of the grade. It will be in class very early, and I'm aware that that's early. There's nothing we can do about that. So for those in the back row, can you even see this? Am I pointing at nothing? Your midterm is 15% of the class grade, and many past exams you will see. Folks, at the end of the book, I post many of my past final exams. Homeworks, where I encourage you to work in groups of up to 4 students, are 20% of your grade, and the first one will be handed out on Wednesday. When you hand in an assignment, please, if it's a group of 4, please legibly write all of your names on the front page. I highly, highly, highly encourage folks who work in a study group to make sure that each of you does all of the problems. Because the midterm exam and the cumulative final exam are going to look a lot like the homeworks. Did everyone hear what the old professor said? Do I need to shake my cane at you? Say, yes, professor. Yes. That did not sound enthusiastic. In Asia, it sounds a lot better. I forgot what we were talking about. The homeworks are going to be pretty hard. They're going to be ambiguous, and I don't want you emailing me. The answers are not going to be in Wikipedia. And so the homeworks are going to be tough. There's going to be cases where they don't have a unique answer. There's going to be cases where there's no answer. You got to deal with it. And so because often it's the case that when a question is well posed, it's trivial to answer it. Use the quadratic formula. What's that? It's not knowledge. If it's in Wikipedia, you're not going to test on it. You're going to run into vague, weird questions, and we're going to learn how your minds work. Don't try to outthink me. Think in your group. The way a well-functioning study group will work, and now I'm going to wave my cane like an old-timer, each of you should individually try to do the homework. And then you should meet in a study group and have a fight as a group and talk things out. And then an answer key will emerge, and you will write it up in a legible way and hand it in. That's terrific. All other course material will be worked on and handed in individually. There's going to be a class paper. I'm eager to see which of you can write. And I actually read those things. I actually read big chunks of the midterm and the final. And so you will take the midterm individually, the class paper individually, and the final exam individually, and you can work in groups on the homework. I don't want to run into any issues of plagiarism. I don't want to run into any stupid issues that waste my time. Questions on the grade formula? Good. Wait, because I'm very eager to get to our first lecture today. How many times when I was a student did professors waste a whole class? We will read, the legend of Bigfoot. All right, stop talking about it and just start reading it. Oh yes, the class paper. This is good stuff. Folks, there is a very readable journal, which I'm one of the editors of. Do any of you have a subscription to the Review of Environmental Economics and Policy? Illiterates. This is a journal for nerds. This is toilet reading for environmental economists. And it's good stuff. You're going to find a paper at this website that interests you, and you're going to write a 500-word essay which answers the following questions. How does the article you choose use some of the ideas in our course? What ideas in the article surprised you? This is kind of just a baloney question. If you could interview the article's author, what questions would you ask? If you'd write a PhD building on this article, what new directions would you take in exploring this subject? So this is fun stuff for you to show your own creativity and to break us out a little of the homework stuff. Folks, let me be serious for a moment because I don't have printed syllabi for everyone. Has everyone been able to find our class webpage? All of our materials will always be posted here. And this is an open source. You can show your friends at Berkeley and Stanford what fantastic course you have. All of the material is going to be here. And if you can't find there, you can always do the following joke. You can go to my webpage. How many of you recognize me as a younger man? This was me when I was your age. Shows you what economics does to you. Breaks you down. There's me at Harvard on the right as a cocky bastard. There's a broken man at UCLA of what economics does to you. Full of hope, very famous, the arrow falls. So you come down here through all this self-serving stuff, and you go to teaching, which somehow is at the bottom, and in fall, and you then just click here, and then you're at the website. So I don't want anyone hearing, oh, I couldn't log in, oh, couldn't find it, oh. It's all right here. The whole world is going to this webpage. You might as well. So your syllabus, which we managed not to Xerox, is here. The optional videos about environmental economics, where I crack a lot of jokes and I talk very briefly about a large number of subjects in environmental economics, is here. And our first 2 lectures are here. So I want to make everything easy for you to access so that you invest more in this course. If this course is actually interesting and fun, you're more likely to learn more, and I think that's terrific. So folks, what we're going to do, let me sober up for a second. We're going to have 18, 19 lectures, and I want to cover the whole book. I don't think that there's any BS in the book. Every chapter of the book is good, but I'm trying to improve all the chapters of the book. We're going to have a good introduction today, and of course that date is misdated. You didn't miss a week of class. I was overly excited. Let me wave my cane at this. Folks, here's what's going to happen. We're then going to talk about the classic factory. We're going to talk about Montgomery Burns and the Simpsons and Blinky the Three-Eyed Fish. When does capitalism destroy the environment? We're going to talk about that at length. That's going to set us up for our discussion of government, both local, state, national, and global government. Is government the cure or part of the problem for solving environmental problems? Folks, do any of you hope to open a dirty factory? Does anyone at UCLA want to get rich? Being rich a dirty word? I'm a rich man from giving these bad lectures. You can get rich opening a dirty factory and hurting people. We're going to talk about the benefits and costs of that. Why aren't there any dirty factories in Beverly Hills? I might put that on the final exam. We're going to talk about that. Folks, where do people choose to live, both across and within cities? How many of you are going to live in Detroit when you graduate? How many of you are heading to Singapore with me? Good. We will go together. I was there all summer. It is my place. No joke. I'm well treated there. We're then going to switch over in Chapter 6 to measuring the demand for environmental progress, a very important topic relevant for the future of Los Angeles. We're then going to talk about cars. We're then going to talk about dirty households. We're then going to talk about where hippie environmentalists come from. What is it about Berkeley that there's so many hippies there? My wife is from there. I live there 2 months a year when I want to be around my equals. What goes on in Berkeley? So a question. Selection versus treatment. Does Berkeley make you a hippie? just with all the acid in the water? Or does it self-select people with left-wing views who go there knowing that the rest of the world is very right-wing? We're going to talk about that, and that's interesting. And that ain't in these other textbooks. Folks, we're then going to switch sides of the market. I'm a professor at the business school. We're going to talk about green companies, whether that it's Elon Musk with Tesla, whether it's Ben and Jerry's. We're going to talk about the economics of green business. We're then going to talk about climate change in ways that you haven't thought about, in hard-headed ways that would make Al Gore blush. But we will talk about Al Gore. We're then going to talk about California and our AB 32, which is something I've been working on the policy front. Why doesn't California free ride? And then, as the course comes to an end, we're going to talk about natural resources. Is UCLA's Jared Diamond correct that we're going to collapse? We're going to use every tree, every fish, every piece of natural resources is going to be pulled out of Africa and devoured by someone in Beijing. We're going to talk about this, of whether there are limits to growth, whether your grandchildren are doomed. Can anyone say that's interesting, Professor? People are yawning at the great man. Folks wonder why I'm nuts. We're then going to talk about the future, going to talk about macroeconomics and the environment. Why are poor nations so polluted? Why is LA looking so good right now? We need to talk about these things. And then there's some other stuff here. Yeah, these are good papers. And we will figure out a place to put all that stuff. Folks, questions on our class outline? And again, I apologize for not having a copy of this. That is real bad. But it saved the environment. Let me let you see. Folks, there are extra chairs. There's folks standing back there. There's 3 chairs here. There's 1 chair in front. Someone can sit on the bench here. And I've got a stool, which you can have. I want to say one more point about the grading formula, because I know that grades are important, and I think that I'm a fair professor. Folks, notice how much weight is backloaded on the final exam. Why has the professor done that for someone who believes strongly in incentives? Why is so much weight on the final exam? What is it about a final exam? It's cumulative. It is cumulative. The final exam will be cumulative and will reflect everything. How much time will you have for the final exam? 3 hours. You will also do it individually. So I was trying to come up with a portfolio that rewards well-functioning study groups. Those study groups that function better, where the weakest member of the study group is still a participating member, those groups will do better on the midterm and the final. I wanted the midterm to have positive weight to force you guys to study for it, because I am a tortoise, not a hare. I wanted the class paper to have some weight because I wanted to learn about your interests. And the only way in a big class to tailor a curriculum is to open up some freedom for you guys. And I will stop waving my cane at you. Questions? Yes? Please.
How long is the class paper?
It's 500 words.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I'm sorry. So the class paper is exactly what I was yelling about the toilet reading. Other questions? All right. So let's start, and I think today's lecture will go on for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to let everyone go and talk to some of the waitlist crew. And folks, let me be serious for a moment. This is a $200 computer that I bought with United Maz. It has a very good chess computer. That's why I got it. But this is not good. Yes?
Your office is on the syllabus, but I didn't see office hours.
Office hours. There is a market for those. Depending what we're meeting about, the price changes. And so it's those office hours will be announced. They're always changing, and they're always on the move. And of course, I have several offices, so you also have to find me. And so, but there will be office hours, but the number I have also depends on the questions that are brought to me. The more interesting is the experience, the more likely I am to show up. And that's, but yes, I will be announcing my office hours. With my broken foot, I forgot to do that. But I do hold office hours, and let the tape reflect that. Folks, in anything we do, if you've got something to say, raise your hand. How I respond to your question will depend on what you say. If you say, Professor, why are you so fat and bald? I will just smile at you and say, you have guts, and I won't answer your question. But if you say something smart in this room, I will say something smart back to you. That's called a matching pennies game. If you say something stupid, I'll just smile at you and pretend I don't understand English. And so it's, you get what you pay for. And so I'm from the University of Chicago, and smart is met with smart, and angry is met with angry, and dumb is met with dumb. And that's how the game is played. So let's do it. But if you got something smart to say, just say it. And be a hero. And if something's not clear, certainly make that point. Because if it's not clear to you, it's probably not clear to many folks. So folks, I want to get done today, chapter 1 of the book. Let's do it. And I don't want to just read to you from the book. That's pathetic. Yeah. Different things on different slides. My computer's showing something different than what you're looking at. I'm sorry. Here we go. Folks, the first thing that I want folks thinking about is that economists differ from the other social science. Sociology's good stuff, I've published there. History's good stuff, I've published there. There's psychology. Economics is the rational social science. And let's talk about this for a moment. If you're uncomfortable with those ideas, you should drop the class. We're going to take rationality very, very, very seriously. And let's do an example. Can somebody name a choice they made recently besides for taking this class? Yes?
So this isn't that recent, but the choice to go to UCLA over another university?
So that's terrific, and that's a very important choice. So let's talk this through for a second, because some of you might be now regretting that choice. Let's take the choice as UCLA versus Berkeley. And that's because that's always a choice of mine. And it's, how does one choose between the two? How do you describe what UCLA is versus Berkeley? We have different football teams. We have different numbers of Nobel laureates. What is UCLA to you as a finite vector? Does everyone know what a vector is? If you turn UCLA into a bunch of numbers, what would be some of the numbers? Would you calculate everyone's shoe size? Is that crucial? What are some numbers about UCLA that matter for you? What's some data? Yes? Tuition, all right. So do you just go to the cheaper school? Does rational choice say that college students just choose the cheaper one? Weren't you all at the University of Phoenix or whatever it's called? What else is there? As my father says, cheap is expensive. If something's price is low in capitalism, what do we no free lunch people say about its quality? It's crap. How does Starbucks sell coffee at twice the price of Dunkin' Donuts? Somebody has to perceive a quality differential. Otherwise, why does anyone go to Starbucks? We will come back to that. So, but she is correct that of course tuition matters, and it's tuition minus whatever financial aid package you're offered. What other dimensions matter for comparing UCLA and Berkeley? You say. Location. So some of you, my wife's from Northern California, some of you might have a grandmother in Encino. Those are idiosyncratic factors that matter. Some of you might want to be very close to a beach where you can surf. Somehow I self-select PhD students who love to surf. Makes me very angry. Other factors. So we've done surfing, grandmas, and price. You.
Job opportunities.
Job opportunities. But how do you folks know which one is better for job opportunities, Berkeley versus UCLA? What do you know? Yes, young lady. College ranking. Who ranked them? Is there information in those rankings? So everything you're saying is correct, but I want you folks thinking like an economist. Yes?
Like majors offered?
Majors offered, so that's a number. So UCLA offers an infinite number. I wonder if we offered fewer, would we have better majors? There's sometimes a quantity-quality trade-off, but I didn't say that. Yes, you.
Student life.
But how do you know that? Do you sleep over that night and see if you get drugged? But if the schools know that, what do they do with you? And so there's interesting strategic games of whether they misrepresent themselves on recruiting night. Yes, we love our students. What other information do you look up? Folks, a question. When you apply now, did any of you watch any YouTube videos of Berkeley versus UCLA to see what student life is like? Did any of you use the interweb for any of this? Was there an interweb in 1984 when I went to college? There was this book called Fisks, which was this book that had one page about each college. So in 1984 for UCLA, they would have said Lou Alcindor plays for the basketball team. Does anyone know why that's funny? He became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and he had graduated 20 years before. But it was a bunch of outdated information. So the economics, the rational social science would say you choose UCLA over Berkeley if you know your goals. If you know what you care about, if you know your priorities, and when you compare what you want versus the cost of attending, if UCLA is the better choice, maximizes your utility, you're more likely to choose it. You don't choose at random. You choose that product or school or friend that is the best of your choice set. And that is the beginnings, this optimizing, that we are ruthless optimizers is going to be one of our big ideas. So folks, I want you to think for a second. Does anyone watch Star Trek anymore? I had to watch it on a flight from Hong Kong. Spock's now an old man. So does anyone recognize these two men? Tell me some adjectives you associate with this one, Homer Simpson from The Simpsons. I want to contrast these two men. You young men. Lazy, all right. Hey, now, one can be lazy in capitalism. For example, some people have said that I haven't used my gifts to what I should have done with them, that I like to watch Led Zeppelin too much and I play too much chess when I could write a sixth book. And so one is going to be lazy. The economics of being lazy is you will compare the marginal benefits of being lazy, of having some leisure now, versus the marginal costs of what you gave up in terms of making yourself a better man, being a better member of your community, fostering your skills to be more productive. So there's a trade-off there of how much leisure to take. What else about Homer Simpson? And folks, let's be specific. Think of the issue of climate change and the impact on Bart, Lisa, and whoever the little baby is, Maggie. Is Homer thinking much about climate change? Does anyone understand what I'm saying? Why not? What's he thinking about? Duffs, Moe. What's on his brain? What's the difference between these two men? You folks are now giving me stupid looks. I can read minds. You. The here and now. Monkeys are into the here and now. Give them a banana, eat the banana. A fascinating question is who has a long-run perspective? Who's thinking about trade-offs, of sacrifices today? That you folks bothered to show up today at 9 in the morning. It's no accident I have my classes early. I like to self-select students who are willing to suffer a little bit. The cliche, and I don't mean to badmouth America, mid-America, wherever Springfield is. The cliche is that Homer J. Simpson is this lovable American who loves his family, puts up with his work because of the donuts, but he ain't thinking about climate change. He doesn't read the New York Times. He didn't go to UCLA. And issues of climate change and bioterrorism and the future are all vague things. Folks, is he going to be willing to sacrifice is he going to vote for higher gas taxes now in return for carbon mitigation with ambiguous future benefits? Something to think about. Now, if you wanted to get someone like him to vote for gas taxes to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, do we have any amateur psychologists in the room? What would you do to get Homer Simpson willing to vote for $7 gas? Do I have anyone who wants to manipulate people? Do I have any madmen in the room? Yes?
Well, you could promise cheaper beer for him.
You could promise cheaper beer for him. That sounds like a free lunch, but that would be one way. So one of our ideas is there's going to be no free lunch. But he's come up with the idea of bundling a gas tax with free beer. That's an interesting bundle of public policies. I like that in a strange way. Folks, what would be another way to motivate Homer to vote for $7 gas? Yes, in the back. I can't hear you. So we're coming back to free beer again. So you're coming back to his hedonism of free beer and donuts. Folks, what about promising him that the world will end if he doesn't vote for this? There's a question of shock and awe, of how you manipulate expectations with people. So there's a very interesting issue related to Madison Avenue. If there's a group of people not focused on the future, do you try to scare them to death to change their behavior? If I view students as lazy and weak, do I threaten to give everyone an F on the final if you don't study? Hoo-hoo-hoo. Some professors do that. I don't do that. You are grown-ups. You are free to choose. Tell me about Mr. Spock. How does he differ from Homer Simpson? And of course, economics, Chicago economics views most men and women in this category. The crew of UC Berkeley behavioral economists believe that people are mostly this type. Folks, what is it about Mr. Spock focused on the issue of climate change? How would Mr. Spock, the Vulcan from Star Trek, think about this issue? And if this bores you, please drop the class, because I'm trying to signal to you how I teach and how I think. And I'm not for everybody, and UCLA is filled with wonderful classes. Yes? Well, let's explore that a little. What is a payoff of being logical? Do I have any chess players in the room? Does anyone look at a chessboard and try to think 3 or 4 moves ahead of where the board is going? If you bring a chess player's logic to climate change, how do you begin to think about the issue? Do we know what climate change has in store for us? When you know that you don't know something, what does a rational thinker do? Drop the class. You got 3, as I say to my son, you have 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. What's your answer? Try to collect more information, but you also buy implicit insurance policies, such as reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. When you're able to look into the future and when you foresee ugly events, sea level rise, extreme heat, drought, this makes you more likely to support costly policies today. Folks, one of our themes is that many environmental policies involve short-run costs for long-run benefits. Let me hear all of you say that, since you're giving me dumb looks. Short-run costs for long-term benefits. He will vote for this. He won't, unless you manipulate his mind with fear and shock and awe. And so there's very interesting issues. Yes, there's no free lunch, but we face a series of decisions related to the environment. When are different people, whether they're Chinese, Egyptian, American, when are they willing to make short-run trade-offs, sacrificing consumption, donuts and beer today for larger probabilities of a brighter future? Versus when do they say, oh, we'll figure it out in the future. Terence Tao and the other UCLA physicists will figure it out. We'll have a spaceship that will take us to Jupiter. We will talk about technological optimists. You were supposed to laugh. You can still drop the class. I am testing you with each of the jokes. You are being probed. So the first idea in the class is that there's no free lunch. We as Americans continue to seek free lunches, but everything has a cost. And economics is the field that takes trade-offs very seriously. And that we have, all of economics is learning about people from the choices they make. And we're going to focus on their environmental choices. And I don't know why my slide got cut. Oh, well, it said something rude. All of this course is going to be about choices we make. Folks, why do we face choices? Let me argue by counterexample. Suppose that you had an infinite amount of time and an infinite amount of money. Would you have to make any hard choices? Last Saturday, did you go on a date with Bob or Sally? That was a choice. If you have an infinite amount of time and money, go out with Bob this Saturday and Sally next Saturday. Take this course, and like on Groundhog Day, takes Terence Tao's course next year. In a world where you are going to live to be age 90, and where you only take 36 classes at UCLA, and these are inputs in your happiness, social networks, and long-term human capital development, the investments you make now define who you are. A reasonable person thinks this through, of the trade-offs of taking fun classes, hard classes, crazy classes, classes that meet late. And you make those choices that, given who you are and who you want to be, help you to achieve your goals. Folks, what's so funny is that America's politicians so often forget that there's no free lunch. And that's going to be unfortunately, that's going to be one of our key ideas. I want to show you something today from today's LA Times. So I want folks in this class to start reading the LA Times because it's filled with interesting environmental economics. So USC does this poll of a representative sample of Californians. And here's a headline from today. Californians want water issues fixed, but not enough to pay for it. You're supposed to laugh. So this is sort of a typical free lunch. Let's take a look and see if there's anything interesting here. Californians say the state's water supply system has serious problems that require improvement, but they're unwilling to spend billions of dollars in ratepayer, those are the people who pay for gallons of water, and taxpayer funds on the task. The results suggest an uphill fight for proponents of a state water bond. Folks, a state water bond is where the state borrows money for a specific issue, like providing water, for a proposal to replumb the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, blah, blah. Folks, an article like this is typical of the challenge, a part of the job of an environmental economist. And let's spend a minute talking about that. I think I have a slide on that in a couple of minutes. I want to talk about what is the job of an environmental economist, but let's do that in order of the notes. I am married to an economist. I'm an economist. I worry my son will be an economist. One of the big ideas that we're going to focus on in this course is that many public policies have unintended consequences. And economists are really good at anticipating those consequences. Folks, I'll give one example now since I'm starting to see more people yawn, and this course is almost over. This is an example from a later chapter of the book. And let me find out whether you guys are deep thinkers or not. Is the following good public policy? Are mandatory seatbelts good public policy?
Yes.
Let's do the yes. Why? What does a mandatory seatbelt do? Yes.
If we have mandatory seatbelts, like it doesn't cost the people who are driving the cars, and then it protects them. So, like it does not cost as in like in monetary terms. But
So she has a correct answer, but folks didn't hear her. Folks, she said the liberal argument, which is correct on one level. She said, Professor, if Matt Kahn is a James Dean, I used to be a rebel, used to be a bad boy before I got sober. If I put on the seatbelt, I'm less likely to die in a crash. Can we all say yay? So what did Sam Peltzman find 30 years ago when he looked at the data? Why did deaths rise? Ooh. Everyone say unintended consequences of policy. Folks, when you got the belt on, does the soccer mom drive at 30 miles per hour with the seatbelt on? So let's slow down so everyone can understand what I'm saying, and I will speak slow. Before the mandatory seatbelt, driving 30 miles an hour. With the mandatory seatbelt, what would economics predict will be her new driving speed? 40 to 50. Why? She feels more safe with the seatbelt on. Why does that induce driving faster? Because we have finite time. And folks, let me teach you something from physics. Distance equals speed times time. Time equals distance divided by speed. Used to be very smart. As speed goes up, time goes down. As time goes down, you've got more everything. You make more peanut butter sandwiches, hit more golf balls, kiss more dudes, do whatever you want to do with your finite time. But folks, there's no free lunch. And I don't mean to pick on soccer moms. You can all become soccer moms. As the soccer mom drives faster, who dies? Pedestrians. Sam Peltzman 30 years ago documented that an unintended consequence of your righteous policy to mandate seatbelts, and folks, the same thing happened with airbags. When you don't listen to the economists, things happen. We anticipated all of this, and I'll come back in a second. It was just assumed, because it never occurred to folks that drivers would change their behavior when you lull them into feeling safer. You've lulled them into feeling safer because of the mandatory seatbelt. They drive faster. They change their behavior because of the policy, and that had unintended consequences, killing pedestrians. Folks, is it still a good public policy? An economist would say, well, on the one hand, drivers saved time. On the other hand, pedestrians died. Economists have ways, which we will talk about in chapter 2, of turning those apples and oranges into a net benefits. But folks, what should have been the public policy? What would you have bundled? This would be a good exam question. This is the way I test. What would you have bundled to the mandatory seatbelts?
Safe driving.
And what incentivizes safe driving? Anyone? What did Eric Estrada used to do? He was in chips. He was one of those California motorcycle guys. You guys don't watch your 70s sitcoms? If there were more policemen on the road enforcing speeding laws, so the public policy that would have been a Pareto improvement would have been to have mandated seatbelts and invested in traffic cops, in speeding cops. If you had implemented those two policies, it's because the lawyers who make policy did not confer with economists and just assumed that the incentive effect was zero rather than estimating it, that these pedestrians died. It's a horrible irony. If we'd been brought into the process, they wouldn't have died. And that's one of our frustrations. Politicians often ignore us as they seek out free lunches. For example, the US Congress right now is seeking ways to zero out our deficit without pain. Somehow they think that by cutting poor people's food stamps, that could add up to several $1 trillion. That ain't going to do it. That politicians always seek out free lunches means that they often ignore what economists have to say, because we're always talking about costs and benefits and that there's no free lunch. And we're relentless on trade-offs. It makes university deans upset with us, and it makes political leaders upset with us, because people want a free lunch. They want to get an A without studying. They want to lose weight without suffering. And I don't believe that that happens. So the great economist John Maynard Keynes said that we economists should aspire to be as useful as dentists. Folks, I want to contrast the economist with the dentist. And of course, I'm going to get us to environmental economics. This is all a drum roll. Let's start off with the dentist. Oh, that's boring. What? Yeah, so we got no next slide. I cheated you of a slide. Let me say it like this. Folks, when you go to a dentist, when you have a problem with your mouth, you go to a dentist, you know that the dentist is going to suggest a solution to your problem. Folks, how many of you have rejected your dentist's suggestion and said, no, I'm not going to do that? I'm impressed. How many of you have accepted a dentist's recommendation? So it looks like it's 96-4, but I'm impressed with the rebels. Good for you. It's important to rebel. It is almost 100% of the time that when dentists make a recommendation, the people follow it. Folks, when economists make a recommendation, it's followed like 4% of the time. What's the difference between a patient and a politician? And of course, when the dentist does the procedure, it's often the case that you experience some pain, but you quickly recover. Folks, can somebody make me feel better about myself? Why do people listen to their dentist but not listen to the economists? Yes, speak up so that they can hear you.
Maybe because with dentists you're affected directly, but with economics, like all of us are on the same boat. So if you will benefit from the negative externalities, then you might choose not to listen to economics.
So I like her answer very much. I'd like to pick up on one piece of what she said. When you visit a dentist, you're in pain and you know you need help. It's often the case that economists make advice, and also you understand the cause and effect of how your aching tooth is causing your pain and how removing that tooth would end the pain. Folks, can we all agree with the economy that it's not so simple? Does anyone recognize how complex the 2008 depression was? Do you folks think that economists know why the Great Depression of the last 5 years occurred? We don't. And so when cause and effect are not easy to understand, with a tooth and an ache, that's easy to understand cause and effect. But maybe economists have not earned the credibility to be as important to society as dentists. And so I think that's a challenge to us, which we should discuss in this course. So folks, now let me come to environmental economics, and I just have 6 slides to do. Environmental economists have a good life. We're paid well. We're invited around the world to lecture. Our what we do for a living, the men and women who do environmental economics focus on that top bullet point. We try to understand the causes and consequences of environmental challenges, whether the challenge is urban air pollution, water pollution, climate change, cutting down trees, dangers to creatures. For each of these topics, we're thinking about the following issue. Folks, name an environmental problem that you're passionate about. And don't say climate change, that's too boring. Name something more idiosyncratic. Yes?
Sustainable food.
Sustainable food. So first of all, we'd have to define what sustainable food is. Is a Big Mac sustainable food? Name me a sustainable food that you care about.
Organic produce.
She cares about organic chicken. Folks, what could we write a paper about on the environmental economics of organic chicken? What is interesting about organic chicken? I know you know. Of course, really stinks. Well, we can all just yawn at each other. Here's how an economist thinks about organic chicken. We think by counterexample. If the world only has conventional chickens, what are the profits earned by that Frank Perdue? And which of these environmental challenges is affected by conventional chicken growing? Folks, how is water pollution affected by chicken growing? Did any of you grow up next to a chicken farm? Back, back. What do chickens do? My son does a real good chicken. For a future Ivy Leaguer, it's funny. What do chickens do? Back, back. They crap. They live at very high density, the millions of them that end up in your delicious chick-a-flick lunch. Have you ever thought about their life before they ended up on your bun? They're pooping their brains out in unsanitary conditions, and wherever that water goes adds to the nitrate cycle. So folks, what is the job of the environmental economist there vis-a-vis organic chicken? There's interesting issues of how you raise these chicken and whether any of these issues are mitigated if the chicken is brought up in a more environmentally friendly way. And then there's questions of how much are consumers willing to pay for organic chicken. If we're a bunch of frat guys who just say chicken is chicken, are we going to be willing to pay a price premium for this hippie chicken? If we're not willing to pay a price premium for the hippie chicken, are any farmers going to grow the hippie chicken? Only if they have a sugar daddy. And so we're going to talk about this, of how, if you're a green business, are you making any money? Are you losing money? If you're losing money, do you have a sugar daddy to cover your loss? If you manage to produce your organic chicken, does it save the world or just make you feel good? That's what we're going to talk about if you take this class. Let's talk about another environmental issue. I'm sick of organic chicken. Yo. Zero waste. Excellent. I don't even know what that is. We're going to talk about the life cycle of products. She raised a very important point. Folks, where zero waste fits into this outline would be by counterfactual. If things like this table don't get recycled, if they end up in landfills, if that plastic bag does not biodegrade, which of these challenges gets worse? Does that bag end up in the Santa Monica Bay? Do we end up with more landfills and fewer parks because land that could have been used for green parks becomes toxic dumps? And so as economists, let me slow down for a second. Folks, somebody say something nice about plastic. The environmentalists are always beating up on plastic, but somebody say something nice about plastic. It's easy to use. Anyone else with something nice to say about plastic? It's cheap. Folks, why do we like cheap? What does cheap do for us? If you're poor, you make $1,000 a month, do you want to pay $55 for a steak? You're going to eat 20 steaks a month and not eat 10 days a month. That's terrific. And we didn't even pay for your rent or for any clothes. You can be walking around nude, not eat for 2/3 of the month. To be UCLA faculty. The low prices make poor people richer. And so be careful what you wish for. This is the age of the 99%. There's interesting issues of inequality. I have friends working on the benefits of Walmart. As we've imported more products from China, prices of products like colored TVs falling in price, raising the purchasing power of the middle class. But as plasma TVs grow cheaper, there's no free lunch, that increases the demand for electricity, that exacerbates climate change. If those plasma TVs end up in a landfill, that can cause deforestation. And so we need to think about intended and unintended consequences, and that's what we're going to be doing. Folks, it is often the case that young people, when they see an environmental externality, when they see capitalism fail, they view President Obama and government as Superman. Put on Jerry Brown. How many of you think Jerry Brown can fly through the air? And so there's an interesting view. Life is not Star Wars. There's not good and evil. I will represent to you Breaking Bad itself. And so a question we're going to talk about in detail is whether government is up to the job of solving the problems that capitalism has created for the environment. We're going to talk in detail about the incentives of government officials, not some ideal utopian Superman, for the men and women who become our leaders. What are their incentives to mitigate environmental externalities and provide public goods? Versus what else is on their radar screen? Have they been captured by special interests? Are there other issues like the war on terror or healthcare distracting them? Whether government is up to the job of addressing environmental issues will be one of our topics. And if it isn't up to the job, what role can the free market play? Folks, we're going to make a major deal in this course about the benefits of free markets. On this slightly radical campus, I may be free market capitalism's biggest fan, but I'm also an ardent free market environmentalist. And so one of our themes of this course is that it is not an oxymoron to be an environmentalist and to be a fan of free markets. And that capitalism is your friend and is your future. It will be one of our debate points. And if I can convince any of you of this, or at least to see slightly the other side from what is typically conveyed in our progressive courses, I think will be useful. But I will never preach, and I never want to brainwash. The starting point in any free market environmentalist course is who owns what. We're going to come back to property rights again and again. For example, some of you are writing with a pen right now. That is your pen. Folks, suppose I wanted your pen. What are two ways I could get your pen? I could steal it or pay for it, or buy it from you. We often keep a close look at what are the ways to exchange. And of course, markets, whether it's Starbucks, whether it's a class at UCLA, whether it's the dating market, there's always buyers and sellers. The sellers own something that the buyers want, and they negotiate for what is a mutually beneficial price. So for example, I wish Starbucks sold cappuccinos at a price of $0. They wish that they could sell for $1,000 each. We differ on the price we'd like to exchange, but we've agreed on a price of $3 per grande cappuccino. And so we're always going to be thinking about who owns what. What do you want? What do you currently own? Is there somebody you could trade with that would be mutually beneficial? And we're going to come back to this again and again. And so folks, Adam Smith's defense of free market capitalism is the following simple idea. Would a vegetarian ever want a meat pizza? If I hand a vegetarian a meat pizza and she lives alone on an island, what's she going to do with this thing? She's going to throw it into the water. But what does she do with it in the middle of the UCLA campus? She's going to sell it to some dude, and they're both better off. She got cash, she can do with that what she pleases, and he now has that meat pizza. Capitalism, irregardless of who has property rights to assets, when there are markets, assets will be reassigned to those who value them the most. If there was a market for resale value of your seats, at the University of Chicago, did you know that students register for classes and then can sell their seat to other students? That leads to an efficient allocation. You get students who actually want to take the class. Some of you don't want to be here. Some of you now really know you don't want to be here now that you have the new information of who I am and what this is. We have an inefficient system. You sign up, sign up. It would not be inefficient. Signing up is property rights, but that we close the market for selling your slot leads to inefficiency. It's the equivalent of a vegetarian ending up with a meat pizza. And I don't understand that about this school. So as we begin to talk about environmental economics, there's going to be many fascinating topics. Folks, who owns the atmosphere? And let me hear you say, we do. Louder. We do. So what is that? Oh, it's from The Simpsons. We do. Who owns the oceans? We do. Who owns the forests? Some dudes, some of us, some of them. Who owns, what's an urban park? Griffin Park, thank you. Folks, an issue we're going to run into is public property versus private property, which is one of the key ideas in environmental economics. Somebody say something nice about public property. Do I have any young hippies? What's something nice to be said about common ownership? For example, there's many golf courses in Brentwood that I can't walk into. I used to be a good golfer, but everyone knows I'm a crazy person. And I don't pay my dues. Can I get into those Brentwood clubs? No, they're private. Somebody say something nice about public resources. They're free access. You can walk on the beach. Has anyone been to the beach? So there's something to be said for public resources, of us sharing them, irregardless if you're the poorest or richest, smartest or dumbest person, that we all have equal rights to be there. I think that that's wonderful in a democratic sense. But folks, what incentive problem does public property create relative to private property? And of course, I'm introducing the tragedy of the commons. You've said too many smart things. Is that a hand or a finger? Tell me a story. That's correct, but you got to put it in a sentence.
People taking advantage of the good public.
So let's talk about that. But I thought there's all peace and love. What happened at Woodstock? So does anyone have to pick up the trash around UCLA? Do we have to pay anyone to pick up trash? Why do we have to pay anyone? Why don't the sororities and fraternities just pick it all up? Just love. Why isn't there UCLA Garbage Day where we all just bend over and pick it up? It would take some time. Let's come back to his point. This is a better way to make the point. Folks, with a public park, let's do it. Let's do it like this. I'm watching the clock. I've cracked too many jokes. So I have a big cigar. I've just finished smoking it. I'm in the middle of my living room. Do I throw it on the carpet and walk? Or do I take it and put it in somewhere? My son's bed. So why didn't I throw that down in my own living room? Got the cigar, just throw it. Why didn't I just put it in the rug and use my broken foot to put it out and walk on? I own it. And so what about those costs? Who bears those costs if I did that? The bad boy in me would like to do that. I'd get benefits from doing that. But who would bear the costs of my throwing that down? You know what my wife would say to me? So I'm now walking in the streets of LA, and I've got it right here. I'm about to throw it down. Public property. What's the difference? I'm the same man. It's the same cigar. What's the difference between my living room and your street? I don't have to deal with it. I make it your problem. Why do I hate all of you so much? Do I hate all of you? Do I know you? Folks, what did I just do? So why did the same man with the same cigar take a different action in private versus public? What's the difference between private and public? And I could be on YouTube. Now, if I was on YouTube, would I still do it? If there were 9 Kardashian cameras on me, would I still do it? Knowing me, yes, that would probably double down. But a normal person would feel the Hawthorne effect that we alluded to. Folks, what point is the professor making? What is it about public property that it gets abused? Yes?
You don't have a sense of responsibility.
Yes. And folks, in a city of 8 million people, if everyone is thinking that way in the Nash equilibrium from John Nash, that movie, The Beautiful Mind, if everyone is thinking in that Nash sense of, so it's not that I'm an evil person, it's that the opportunity cost of my not throwing the cigar on the ground is I'd have to walk it to a garbage can and incur 40 cents worth of cost. It's just easier to ditch the cigar. So folks, is everyone with me? It's not that I'm evil, I'm just making it your problem. If everybody does that, what does LA look like? Can everyone use the words crap hole in a sentence? This is the tragedy of the commons. This is how cities get polluted. This is how the air gets polluted with cigar smoke and car smoke. This is how the ocean fills with garbage bags and crap. This is how the forest turns into a big garbage bag. The tragedy of the commons, private self-interest and public property is going to be one of our big themes. Any questions on this big definition? And we will be coming back to this again and again, and the book does a good job. We will talk about government's role and free markets' role for protecting these resources when you recognize that the tragedy of the commons lurks. Questions there? Oh yes, so I want to end class. Is any of this interesting? No. Folks, this is what I do for a living. So I now want to talk a little bit about me and wrap up the class and get you guys out in 7 minutes. When I die, the 2 words that will be on my tombstone, besides for jerk, will be green cities. The major theme of my life's work is that those cities, whether it's Beijing, whether it's Cairo, whether it's New York, whether it's LA, those cities with great quality of life will have a bright future and will not be Detroit. Those, even though we can't predict what will be the next hot industries. Folks, I did not know what Google was when it came out. I was very happy with Yahoo and Netscape and Google. And so economists are very bad about predicting what will be the next hot industry and what city it will locate in. But my life's work has been about that those cities, this is a footloose age where we can migrate anywhere. Those cities with great quality of life can be confident that they have a bright future. UCLA is a hot school not because of the faculty, but because it's a great place to live. I wish I had gone here as an undergraduate. I'm from New York City. It never occurred to me what a great city Los Angeles is. The counterfactual is, would UCLA be such an important school if it wasn't such great quality of life? But folks, the downside of is there any free lunch? There's no free lunch. When quality of life is great, home prices go through the roof. Folks, you can sell one house in Westwood and buy how many Detroit homes? 100. Yet people don't do that. Can everyone say, now that I have your attention, I could sell my Westwood house and buy many more Detroit homes. People are not making that trade. People are voting with their feet, despite the extremely high home prices, to be here. And that's the ultimate compliment. And folks, a question. Why would a mayor be incentivized to pursue such high quality of life? If home prices are very high, how does that help a mayor? Mayor Villaraigosa and Mayor Garcetti get their get their revenue from property taxes. The mayor of Los Angeles gets 1% of the value of homes. Folks, did you know that LA's property is worth more than $1 trillion? So these guys get, I can't even do the math, get $10 billion a year in property tax revenue. I don't even know where that money goes. It's just an incredible amount of money because there's such demand, international demand to live here. So a major topic in modern urban economics is that those cities that can attract, retain, and create the skilled have a bright future. And so a big theme of my work, in my work with Siqi Zheng of Tsinghua University in China, and we have a forthcoming University of Chicago Press book, is those cities with great quality of life have a great future. And folks, quality of life is more than just blue skies. It's good public schools, it's low crime, it's good public transportation. There's many pieces to it, but a clean environment as a major part of urban quality of life. And that this incentivizes mayors. Mayors recognize this point, and this incentivizes mayors to produce blue skies. Folks, throughout this is my final slide. One of our themes, and I was yelling about this before, and I think that I already like you guys. I sense you're even awake. And I will stop waving this as my toes feel better. One of the major themes of our lectures is going to be free market environmentalism. I'm going to give government a chance. I am not a Tea Party member. I'm not a rabid libertarian. But government is going to be innocent till proven guilty, but we are going to take very seriously the intended and unintended consequences of government. We're going to always be talking about the following. As firms pursue their own profit maximization, as UCLA students pursue their attempts to get the good life, the environmental problems created and solved. Folks, help me on this one. Has anyone taken an action recently that had an environmental impact? Does anyone want to atone for a recent sin? You all just meditate? Yes.
I decided to bring my car down to UCLA even though...
All right, we got one honest man. So why did you make that choice, young man? What were the private benefits and private costs? You had to pay for the gasoline, but what was the benefit of this action?
benefit of being able to pick up whenever I want to.
Convenience and faster time relative to the slow blue bus that stops every 12 feet to pick up a senior. And so it's, we will come back to that. There are trade-offs in a diverse society. The bus shouldn't stop. So what is he guilty of? What did this young man, what environmental atrocity has he committed? And put those words in quotes. What we all know is that depending on his vehicle's vintage, he has raised air pollution and he consumes some gasoline depending on its fuel economy. We're going to talk about how we could incentivize him to make the optimal trade-off. All choices have costs and benefits. And whether government is up to the job to introduce those incentives. Can government regulation nudge the free market? Oh, this is going to be one of our very important themes. When you know that you don't know what policies are effective, how can we experiment more like those at the medical school who experiment with different drugs? Throughout these lectures, we're going to come back, and this is an editorial. You can reject this point. I will argue this point in this class, but you can get an A+ in this class rejecting that point. But I want everybody thinking. So folks, here's what I want you to do for Wednesday. On Wednesday, I would ask you to read, to make sure you've read chapters 1 and chapters 2, and please read the notes for Wednesday's class, because we're going to have a fair bit of algebra for what we're going to do on Wednesday. I'm going to stick around to talk to folks who want to speak to me, and we will introduce Charles and hand out homework 1 on Wednesday.